Stonehenge seems to be one of many megalithic temples built by the ancients to harness, amplify, and manipulate natural earth energies. So why exactly did they do this?
Many stone circles would seem to have been built at locations that are connected with what we might call vortexes. In other words, extremely energetic effects caused by the local geology.
Stonehenge has 30 plus layers coursing through it. It is an absolute matrix of layers, and all of those lines are said to be magnetic, which means they are life enhancing.
Stonehenge is unique, completely unique compared to other sites in Britain. There's nothing quite like it. The lintels, the shaping of the stones, different types of stones, multiple configurations it's been in. And in tradition, you know, it was a healing temple technically, because the old stories of the blue stones coming from Wales said that when Merlin would pour water over the stones, then when you drank the water you'd be healed and so forth. This goes back to the 12th century, to the History of the Kings of Britain by Geoffrey of Monmouth. This was developed actually by some archaeologists in 2009 as an idea, as a genuine idea, that this was part of the reason Stonehenge was so renowned, because it was a healing temple. But also you've got to remember that it's like the placement of it in the landscape is, I think, it's very energetic, that particular part of the landscape. I know because I live very close to there.
The intense electromagnetic energy being produced at Stonehenge affects human brainwaves and nervous systems, which are also electromagnetic in nature, and this could promote bodily healing or induce altered states of consciousness.
What we know about the builders of Stonehenge is that the earliest phases of activity here were probably around 3000 BC, and the culture involved with the construction of those earliest phases, which involved the building of this henge monument, this ditch, on the inside of which is a bank, and possibly even a circle of the enigmatic blue stones inside it. This would seem to have been constructed by those that introduced a particular type of pottery known as grooved ware. Grooved ware is very, very important because the culture behind its use came from the Isles of Orkney in Scotland, and they created this type of ceramic, and they then carried it to different parts of the British mainland and also into Ireland. But the importance about this is that all of the locations that they end up coming to in the British mainland are associated with the manifestation of light forms and other types of strange phenomena, and that includes the area around Stonehenge and Avebury, which is just about 12 to 15 miles in the north from here. This whole area has been associated with mysterious phenomena, we know, since at least the 17th century.
Before this type of megalithic technology was brought to Great Britain, it existed in Doggerland, which has now sunken below the North Sea. Before that, these same megalithic practices and traditions can be traced back through Eastern Europe down to the Taz-Tepler people of Göbekli Tepe and Karahan Tepe in Turkey.
Some of the theories relating to what Stonehenge would have been used for during its height revolve around ceremonial activities at the time of the solstices, both the summer solstice and the winter solstice. There would have been celebration, there would have been initiation, there would have been communication with what would have been perceived as the great ancestors, possibly celestial beings, and maybe even the first gods that would all have been seen to be accessible at such times. One of the things that Stonehenge is famous for is its alignment towards the sunrise at the time of the solstice and sunset at the time of the winter solstice. So sunrise at the summer solstice, sunset at the time of the winter solstice. And here we actually have on the ground these arrows actually marking those alignments. And the important thing about them is that they mark the cycles of the year, and it tells them exactly when to begin the year, when to end the year, when to celebrate. And it also would have been when the ceremonies and rituals would have taken place. And it's also around midwinter that we know that incredible feasts were taking place at nearby Durrington Walls, and we think that the rituals would have actually ended here with some kind of climax, ritualistic in nature, here at Stonehenge itself. This here is the henge that gives Stonehenge its name, and we're talking about a circular bank that goes all the way round the stone monument, and on the outside of that is a ditch. And this is what makes it so different to defensive earthworks, because with those the ditch would be on the inside to protect the place, and that's why we know that henges are of a ritualistic or ceremonial nature. And obviously inside them it contains the huge stone monument itself, which is made of these massive tritholons, which are made of something called sarsen, a local stone. And inside that you have the much smaller stones, which are known as bluestones, and these come from the Preseli Mountains of Wales, almost 200 miles away from this site. They were brought from the location of a stone circle there, and the raw material had been quarried nearby, so there must have been some kind of power involved with this bluestone to have been brought all the way here to be placed and re-erected on Salisbury Plain. The bluestones in the centre of Stonehenge here were brought from a location 200 miles away from here in Wales. Why would you do that? Well, firstly, we know that they formerly probably formed part of a stone circle there, but there are traditions that the bluestones held great power, that they had healing capabilities, and may well have been able to enhance what we would refer today as geomagnetic energies of the earth, and that quite clearly their placement in Stonehenge itself would mean that the people that created it, the people that built it, did this with a specific purpose. People would come to Stonehenge to chip away at them, and this was as early as Roman times, arguably even earlier, to take them away as personal adornment, perhaps to, you know, try and heal somebody. But other chips have been found as pendants in the graves of Bronze Age peoples of this region, suggesting that there must have been something about the bluestone that was special. And this must have been from a very, very early date, because we know that the ones here came from a much earlier stone circle. So right from, I don't know, 5,000–6,000 years ago, possibly even before that, bluestones were seen to have incredible power. And the fact that they are here at Stonehenge, I think, is very important indeed. The work of Timothy Darvill and Jeff Wainwright into the bluestones of Stonehenge has been quite fascinating. What they have established is not only that the healing powers of the stones may have been one of the reasons why they were actually brought from Wales to Stonehenge in the first place, but also that they may have had important acoustic properties, because when you ring bluestones they give out a tone, and that tone has been known to affect alpha waves within the brain.
And there's this idea that Stonehenge itself, being an acoustic temple or a sonic temple, that alone, that side of it, would actually create these kind of healing effects. And so you have all these different elements combining into one when it comes to sites such as Stonehenge.
2.5 miles away from here is a place called Durrington Walls. Very recently, archaeologists have discovered a series of huge shafts that encircle it. These would appear to have been used as sound chambers. In them, music would have been generated on a very low frequency using some kind of instrumentation. There is a good chance that very low frequency would have been generated through the ground, and that this could have been felt at certain locations in the Stonehenge landscape here almost certainly. And if that's the case, then we can say that there's a good chance that Stonehenge acted as a sonic temple, and that the different mounds, the different shafts in the area that encompassed it acted as resonators to generate this energy at this site itself.
Drumming and other instrumentation could have resonated the megalithic temple to create infrasound. Infrasound is known to assist the brain in achieving altered states of consciousness. The ancients would have surely used this technology in their shamanic journeys and ceremonies.
Woodhenge, for instance, which is very close to Durrington Walls, was a series of posts, and it's been proposed that they could have been some kind of alien harp, alien as in the Greek word, meaning that they almost were strung with strings or some kind of cord that would have resonated with the wind. And here at Stonehenge, work has been done to suggest that the acoustic properties may have been enhanced by perhaps even scooping out some of the stones, so that during rituals this would have enhanced altered states of consciousness within those that actually took part in these rituals and ceremonies that took place here. Recent findings have suggested that acoustics could have been incredibly important at this site. If that is the case, then the enhancement of the natural acoustics would suggest building up some kind of state of mind, exactly what would be achieved by shamans, going into a trance state, entering into otherworldly realms for the point of communicating with otherworldly intelligences. The chances are that that did take place here, but I think what's also important to mention is that this landscape is well known for what you might refer to today as the appearance of UAPs, UFOs, mystery lights, and this is something that's historical. It's been going on for hundreds of years on these downs, and unquestionably this would have formed a part of their rituals. In other words, those lights would have been seen perhaps as great ancestors returning to them to communicate with the living. And it's very possible that there were certain times of year when these lights would more frequently appear, and I think that that in itself may have determined exactly when the alignments were put in place here, in other words, to do with the solstices. Stone circles are very often at locations with a special geology, a geology that seems to be integrally related with fault lines, with certain types of minerals, quartz in particular, but also metal ores such as copper and iron. And all of these seem to be associated with the creation and the flow of electrons through the process that's known as piezoelectricity. And it's very likely that the ancients were aware of this because they probably had strange experiences at such places and knew that they were special. I don't suspect that they knew much about the geology. They could have done, but why were they doing this? And the answer is that they saw these sites as almost like portal locations that would allow them to connect their consciousness with the spirit realms, the celestial realms, interdimensional realms. One of the contents of the chalk in this area of the Wiltshire Downs is flint, and flint is something that is used to make stone tools, has been since the prehistoric age, but beyond that it is almost pure quartz in content. And the reason why that is significant is that quartz is one of the components that creates what we call piezoelectricity, and piezoelectricity is one of the contributors for the release of electrons within the rock beneath our feet.
Stonehenge sits above an extensive aquifer system which is flowing through porous chalk. The friction created by this flowing water creates triboelectricity, which ionizes the landscape and creates a powerful geomagnetic field, along with the piezoelectricity emitted by the flint. This spinning toroidal field is what we call an energy vortex. Stonehenge appears to be specifically placed above an aquifer for its energetic properties, just like the Great Pyramids of Giza.
Ionospheric environments are where electrons, free electrons, rise up from the Earth due to intense geology, and when they are generated, when they are present in the air, they have the ability to not only affect human consciousness and human bodily systems, but also to generate paranormal phenomena and UFOs.
A lot of high strangeness is reported in the Stonehenge area. The Salisbury Plain is a mega UFO hotspot and the crop circle capital of the world. It is also known for sightings of strange apparitions and will-o'-the-wisp, or luminous, intelligently behaving orbs, which were historically believed to be the lanterns of the fairies. These orbs appear to be made of plasma and are also known as earth lights, spook lights, or ghost lights. Plasma can be created by extreme ionization like that which we find occurring at Stonehenge due to the energetic geology below.
When these seas of electrons reach the air, they start coalescing with the natural elements of the air, the oxygen, the hydrogen, and they can form plasmoids with their own self-generated magnetic fields that are sustained over a period of time. It could be a half a second. It could be a few seconds. It could be hours. And usually, when we see these, we interpret them in terms of intelligent, structured craft. However, having said this, it does appear that they do have a sentience. They do have some kind of ability to show that they are intelligent and are life forms in their own right, and to possibly even to transform into more physical, structured craft, a term which is obviously very loaded, but in many cases is very applicable. So how is it possible that these plasma constructs can display such intelligence? Well, the quantum physicist David Bohm, who was American, who spent most of his life working in England at Bristol University, examined plasma fields. He would create them, and he noticed that under certain conditions they seemed to form into constructs in a way that suggested that they had life within them, that they were coming alive. And what he wrote is that he felt that some kind of intelligence was coming up from what he referred to as a deeper level of existence to inhabit the plasma environment, and this is why it appeared to be alive. In other words, it becomes like a portal, allowing things to manifest from a higher level down through the plasma into a three-dimensional environment, or indeed in reverse, something that is three-dimensional, perhaps even human beings, entering into this multi-dimensional environment and quite literally disappearing both in time and in space.
Beyond the multidimensional nature of plasma, actual wormholes might also be a part of the equation here. It is theorized that an energy vortex can open a portal at its center if both rotations are present under the right conditions. Counter-rotating electromagnetic fields in the same place at the right amplitude could hypothetically puncture a hole in space-time and expand into a trans-dimensional gateway. The careful placing of megalithic stones at Stonehenge might have aided to facilitate these conditions through their manipulation of earth currents.
Stone circles are another aspect of kind of this manipulation of natural earth energies and telluric currents and other such things. We know that they have a very specific geometry sometimes, very accurate spacing out of the stones, specific measurements, specific orientations. They're also placed at very specific parts of the landscape which are often chosen because they were deemed special before they even kind of built the stone circle there. Maybe strange lights were seen there, maybe it just felt different, it felt sacred, so they wanted to build something there. Maybe they had experiences there that kind of made them choose that particular spot.
A stone circle affects earth energies in quite a unique way, because if you imagine, the stones can be likened to an acupuncture needle point going into a meridian line. The meridian line could be lots of different types of earth energies, for example circular earth energy, spiral earth energies, or earth current, or a ley, or a grid line. Then what the stone does, it seems to allow that energy from the ground, from the earth, to rise up the stone, and then the stone releases that at 5 points above ground on a tall megalith, and there's 2 points below the ground where the energy is still flowing, and they're called energy bands, and they're quite powerful. The second energy band allows the energy to go from one stone to another, to another, to another. So if you imagine that the energy going around a stone circle, around the circumference of it, literally going round, that creates a real powerful energy zone within a stone circle. Now, within a stone circle, you always have one stone that's offset. It's called an exit gate, and it literally isn't the same direction as any other stone in the stone circle. Avebury has one in the outer circle, and Rollright has one, for example, as does Castlerigg, and that allows that energy going around the circumference to go through what's called the exit gate. That's the stone that's set differently, goes through the exit gate and then on to the outlier, maybe a standing stone that could be a mile away or 2 miles away. So the stones really do influence how the energy flows around a stone circle, but it has to retain its circular shape for that still to happen. So you would need to go in the British Isles, for example, to the Merry Maidens, to Rollright, Castlerigg or Swinside.
The placing of stones in a landscape like this will affect the very subtle electrical and magnetic currents that flow through the earth naturally, and this will enhance everything from plant growth to healing, to achieving altered states of consciousness, and maybe even portaling on a consciousness level, but also perhaps even on a physical level as well.
So one of the other concepts relating to these energies you find on the earth, and especially the way the ancient sites, I believe, kind of manipulated them and enhanced these energies. You get the telluric currents being attracted, especially at sunrise, where the magnetic field gets blasted by the solar rays. It would then, if they're like a chamber or a stone circle is facing roughly east, the energies would sort of pump straight into it. And so if you lay your seeds out in like a small kind of channel or in a little place within the ground there, you put it in the right spot, your seeds and grains can get charged up. Inside chambers such as long barrows or dolmens, or the chambers you find in New England, it's actually said that it would collect ions, so you would actually get layers of different ions, and the lower level where you place your seeds would be the strongest, and it would collect, but you have to have a certain type of rock which has magnetic qualities associated with this. Now, this was all detected and researched by John Burke and Cadge Halberg, who wrote the book Seed of Knowledge, Stone of Plenty. But before that you have writers like Philip Callaghan, who was doing similar tests with the round towers of Ireland, and you have people like Alana Moore from Australia, who did experiments with mini stone circles on her farm and found that this enhanced the natural telluric currents. And if she placed seeds in certain positions, which she dowsed to find the right positions, it would enhance the seeds. So when you go and plant them, you get a higher yield, you get a stronger crop, and you get a much more robust kind of product at the end of it. And this is what has been found over and over again at these ancient sites. If you place seeds within the entrance to these chambers or at specific spots, and then you allow the energies to accumulate there, usually during sunrise, but also going into the sunset time as well, and also at specific times of years they can increase, you can actually get a much better yield from seeds and grains. And it's said that people from all over the country would come to one place to place their seeds sometimes, and these traditions kind of link with this.
A torsion field, according to Richard Hoagland, who had the equipment to measure them, and he measured numerous ancient sites, from Mexico to Egypt to Stonehenge. He said the torsion field is great. It can be up to 5 miles away. He can pick up on it. The closer you go to the centre of a torsion field, and if you use radio receiving equipment, it seems to set that equipment into a very, very high zone, very crackly and very loud, for example. And if you go out of the torsion field, things become much calmer. At Stonehenge, we realised that the torsion field point was above the vortex at Stonehenge, and when I placed that receiver above the actual vortex, it was going crazy. Then my watch lost an hour of time there as well. So Richard noticed sometimes within torsion fields you get these time lapses, or it can affect equipment in some way. Dowsing, the centre of the torsion field at Stonehenge, creates the dowsing rod to spin wildly in one direction, going counterclockwise, for example. Then it will stop and literally judder. So what I mean by that, it will start to spin like this and then go in the other direction as well. And Richard felt that that was the switching of the power within the torsion field generally, which is always stronger on the inside than on the outside. And as you walk away from it, you can actually feel the change in energetic feelings within yourself, even by just walking through a torsion field. So I think stone circles were created to allow people to interact with the energies. That's the first thing. So for example, what the ancients did is they created an area prior to entering the stone circle to allow you to clear your energy field, your aura. It's normally above a vortex-like area, and that will allow the energies to be cleared so you don't take your emotional baggage in with you into an ancient site. And I've discovered these in ancient Egypt, across Europe, in places like Sardinia, for example. So the ancients were very aware of you needed to be calm and centered to interact with the earth energies inside of a site. So I think some of the stones that are sited above an energy that is one of the most powerful forms of earth energy is called an aquastat. It was called an aquastat by Guy Underwood in the 1940s, but in his book The Pattern of the Past, which was the wrong book that went to print, he never explained what an aquastat was. And over the 30 years that I've been dousing that energy system called the genetic system of earth energies, I've noticed that an aquastat is literally an underground stream of very, very deep water, not groundwater. When you have these aquastats at a crossing point, they cross, and you put a standing stone above that, it generates a healing energy field. We've measured this healing energy field, and it's around between 7 and 10 hertz, which will put your brain into like an alpha mode, if you will. So some of the stones sited above particular earth energies can be healing. Other stones that are sited above a circular energy pattern, called a primary halo, for example, that's dictating its circular shape from the get-go, they tend to be highly energized. So if you interact with that type of energy, you're literally going to come away energized. So different types of earth energy are set in a stone circle for different purposes. Now when you get numerous types of earth energies coming together, for example, male groundwater, female yin water, an aquastat with an earth current flowing through that, and you've got a combination of energies that can influence the temperature of a stone, and that stone can start to release heat. If you walk down the small avenue of Stanton Drew, for example, with the palm of your hands above some of those stones, you can feel some heat there. And at Stonehenge, there's an amazing stone that releases heat that I have taken literally hundreds of people to feel that energy within it. Some standing stones sited above earth currents, like the Mary and the Michael, the Ellen and the Bolinas, Catherine and Peter, earth energies, they can be quite calming. And the Mary current, female earth currents, can be influenced by the moon. So they're very good places to increase one's intuition, to meditate. Solar earth currents, they can be energizing like the primary halo. Now there's one type of earth energy that is absolutely spectacular. If you imagine you've got the stone circle, you've got a complex, and you're above highly pressurized water, it doesn't just generate a spiral shape and a circular pattern, it generates a horseshoe shape around those energy patterns. And that's like protecting the ancient site, separating the sacred from the profane. So really the earth energies dictated what the stones could be used for. Sites aligned to Stonehenge on ley lines are amazing. For example, you've got the pyramids of Giza, there's a very strong ley that goes through there, and also America's Stonehenge, because the owner of America's Stonehenge, Dennis Stone, has done a lot of research looking into that particular line. And interestingly, it enters by a very powerful trilithon. So when we look at leys, we don't necessarily look at the site, we look at what is being targeted within that site. And there's one ley from Stonehenge that's said to target the King's Chamber, for example, not just saying the Great Pyramid. Well, where the altar stone is, that's set above a very deep aquifer that's generating a 7-chord geospiral, and there's a vortex just in front of that as well. That's very powerful. Then you have numerous earth currents flowing in, especially through the entrance. You've got a big current coming in from the entrance through the avenue and then flowing in that direction, and then it kind of curves off this way. So that's like a big earth current that doesn't have a name, but that's there. Then you've got the line that links, a ley line that links up to America's Stonehenge. That's a very powerful line. Then you have set in all of the circular features at Stonehenge. So for example, the Aubrey holes, and then the Sarsen circle, the Bluestone circle, and the Z and the Y holes, which were pits around the outside here. They're all set on what's called primary halos. Now when you've got an exceptionally powerful underground water aquifer under pressure, it generates not just a spiral pattern but circles of energy, and the circular features at Stonehenge are set above that, energizing the stones. Also with the energy bands, they're heading towards the heel stone, just like at Rollright Stone Circle. You've got lots of energy bands here. And just here, where you've got the blue stones that you walk through the entrance, stone 30 and 1, then you hit the 2 blue stones that are male and female in their shape, like at Avebury. They're above powerful earth voltages that cause the stones to be exceptionally strong. Then you have numerous leys coursing through the monument like a dartboard. So there's some of the earth energies that you can experience at Stonehenge.
What else can be done with intense natural energy concentrations present at sites like Stonehenge? Could they be used to power our electrical grid like Nikola Tesla came very close to achieving over a century ago?